oxygen discovered defies knowledge of the deep ocean. So this is going to be a science article. Scientists have discovered dark oxygen being produced in the deep ocean, apparently by the lumps of metal on the seafloor. I mean, that's not really that much surprising, because oxygen can be found in the space, in the vacuum of space as well. That is something that a lot of people do not know. However, even some stars have oxygen, which is quite surprising considering you will not be expecting that stars can have oxygen. However, it is indeed. And obviously when the star dies, when it turns into a supernova and explodes, then that oxygen and a lot of these metals simply get released into the vacuum of space until they are eventually formed into a new star or star with planets into a solar system. About how the oxygen we breathe comes from the ocean. But before this discovery, it was understood that it was made by marine plants' photosynthesis, something that requires sunlight. Here at the depths of 5 kilometers where no sunlight can penetrate, the oxygen appears to be produced naturally by occurring metallic nodules which split seawater H2O into hydrogen and oxygen. Interesting. That's an interesting fact I didn't know about. About how the oxygen we breathe comes from the ocean, but before this discovery, it was understood that it was made by marine plant photosynthesis. Yes, we read that. Several mining companies have plans to collect these nodules, which marine scientists fear could disrupt the newly discovered process and damage any marine life that depends on the oxygen they make. I first saw this in 2013. An enormous amount of oxygen being produced at the seafloor in complete darkness, explained lead researcher Professor Andrew Sweetman from the Scottish Association for Marine Science. I just ignored it because it's been taught you only get oxygen throughout photosynthesis, and that is problem with science in a nutshell. A lot of scientists think like this, that they are taught something and this is a absolute truth. In science, nothing is absolute. In science, anything can change. And that's the reason why science sometimes really falls behind. Because people simply block their minds. They block their minds to new ideas, to new theories. Simply because book says it is not possible. I am not really following the Black Ops 6 at all. Like, I'm not really excited for the game. I think it's going to be a flop. I think it's going to use these historical figures and make some edgy cutscenes. However, the game is going to be very average or mediocre even. Like, it's going to be released on PS4 and Xbox One, which are very old consoles at this point. And if you remember, Cyberpunk 2077 also released on those consoles and it was a disaster. So I do not have much hopes for the new Call of Duty really. Eventually I realized that for years I'd been ignoring this potential huge discovery, he told BBC News. He and his colleagues carried out their research in an area of the deep sea between Hawaii and Mexico, part of vast swath of seafloor that is covered with these metal nodules. The nodules form when dissolved metals in seawater collect on fragments of shell or other debris. It's a process that takes millions of years, and because these nodules contain metals like lithium, cobalt and copper, all of which are needed to make batteries, many mining companies are developing technology to collect them and bring them to the surface. But Professor Sweetman says the dark oxygen they make could also support life on the seafloor, and his discovery published in the journal Nature Geoscience raises new concerns about risks of proposed deep-sea mining ventures. Instead of deep-sea, they could just mine the space. Like, there's a lot of asteroids that can be mined for resources. The scientists worked out that the metal nodules are able to make oxygen precisely because they act like batteries. If anything makes a oxygen, and especially if there's something like this, like if the rocks on the bottom of ocean makes oxygen, then they should never ever been, mined. Like, they make oxygen. Like, we would be pretty much crippling the Earth's production of oxygen for real this time. If you put a butter into seawater, it starts fizzing, explained Professor Sweetman. That's because the electric current is actually splitting seawater into oxygen and hydrogen, which are the bubbles. I think that's happening with these nodules in their natural state. It's like a battery in a torch, he added. You put one battery in, it doesn't light up. You put two in, and you've got enough voltage to light up the torch. So when the nodules are sitting at DC4 in the contact with one another, fuck, I got something in my nose, are sitting in DC4 in contact with one another, they are working in unison like multiple batteries. The researchers put this theory to the test in the lab, collecting and studying the potato-sized metal nodules. Their experiments measured the voltages on the surface of each metallic lump, essentially the strength of the electric current. They found it to be almost equal to the voltage of a typical AA-sized battery. This means, they say, that the nodules sitting on the seabed could generate electric currents large enough to split or electrolyze molecules of seawater. The researchers think the same process, battery-powered oxygen production that requires no light and no biological process, could be happening on other moons and planets, creating oxygen-rich environments where life could thrive. Yes, that is possible. We should not be assuming other planets will be making oxygen or living condition the same way we do it on Earth. You send me the link? Okay. Water duck, Iraqi smooth coated otter or Iraqi water duck or Arabian or Maxwell's otter. Quite cute. Clarion Clipperton Zone, where the discovery was made, is a site already being explored by a number of seabed mining companies, which are developing technology to collect the nodules and bring them to a ship at the surface. The US National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration has warned that this seabed mining could result in the destruction of life and that the seabed habitat in the mine areas. More than 800 marine scientists from 44 countries have signed a petition highlighting the environmental risks and calling for a pause on a mining activity. The new species are being discovered in the deep ocean all the time. It is often said that we know more about the surface of the moon than we do know about the deep sea, and this discovery suggests that the nodules themselves could be providing the oxygen to support life there. Professor Mary Roberts, a marine biologist from the University of Edinburgh, is one of the scientists who signed a seabed mining petition. There's already overwhelming evidence that the strip mining deep-sea nodule fields will destroy ecosystems we barely understand, he told BBC News. Because these fields cover such a huge areas of our planet, it would be crazy to press ahead with the deep-sea mining knowing that there may be significant sources of oxygen production. Professor Sweetman added, I don't see this study as something that will put an end to mining. But we need to explore it in greater detail, and we need to use this information and the data we gather in future if we are going to go into the deep ocean and mine it in the most environmentally friendly way possible. Or you could simply just mine the universe. The universe has almost unlimited amounts of resources for you to mine. But you would have to make an effort to actually progress the technology in space exploration and mining. Okay, it's good to see my stream element still works. Very good. So yeah, this was it. The dark oxygen. Quite interesting. I will definitely make a video about this. Once again, science, and I'm quite interested in this as well. Besides, hey, raise awareness, so that's always good to raise awareness about stuff like this.